friends. I'm your host, Dr. Dave Layton, and thank you for joining me in our journey to hope. It is my desire through this podcast to bring you information about how to discover, sustain, or perhaps regain hope. In this episode, I'm speaking with a new friend, Lisa Espinoza. Lisa experienced a tragedy in her life and is now working to help others recover from that grief and loss. I'm going to let Lisa introduce herself and describe to us her ministry. And something we share is our intense desire to help others when their hope is being challenged. And we will be discussing how she's doing this. Well, hello, Lisa.
Hi, thank you so much for letting me come on and speak to your people today.
Well, the honor is mine. I appreciate so much your time. You know, I tell people time is our most precious gift. And so when we give it to somebody, that says a lot. So, well, as we begin talking about this situation, I'd like to discuss with you about hope and recovering hope, that sort of thing. But let's begin. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am originally, as you can probably tell from the way I talk, originally from Texas.
Okay.
Been out of Texas for, let's see, I've been married almost 42 years. And so
Okay.
I've been out of Texas since I was 18. But you can take the girl out of Texas, but I
That's
guess you
right.
can't take the Texas out of the girl.
That's right.
So,
Texas,
so
Texas through and through. There you
yeah,
go.
don't mess with Texas. So yeah, we have four kids and two grandkids, and everybody's right about that. They're absolutely right. It's like the best thing ever. And then I have two crazy dogs that we hope don't bark while we're trying to do this, but we'll see. And I love my life. I have a wonderful, beautiful life. Um,
Okay.
despite some hard things that have happened.
Yeah. And we'll talk about those in a minute. And I appreciate the growth that you've done. By the way, I spent 13 of my Air Force career, 13 years of my Air Force career in San Antonio.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
I was part of what they call the Bexar County Air Force.
Oh,
Yeah. Uh, and you know, I grew up in Northwest Arkansas. I'm a Razorback fan. And
okay.
and Texas would break our heart so many times. And I never thought I would love Texas, but I do love Texas. It's a wonderful
Yeah.
state.
I mean, there's some things like the pecan pie
Oh yeah,
and sweet
barbecue.
tea. Don't even get me started about barbecue. No,
A whole
that's
new
it.
world. That's
That's a
right.
whole, yeah, Texas barbecue.
So you've been married 42 years.
Almost 42 years.
That's
Yep.
wonderful.
Yep.
My,
When we
my,
got married, we joked that he had the business in the front, party in the back. It was the day when the mullet was a big thing. So a
okay.
lot of people at our Bible college had the mullet, but his was special because it was permed in the back and then he would blow dry the top. So it was kind of a special mullet.
I'd have to, I can't even picture that. I'd have to.
It was beyond words.
Yeah. Well, my wife and I are going to be celebrating our 50th anniversary this summer in June. Yeah.
Congratulations.
You know, long-term marriages, that's the way they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so congratulations for you guys for 42 years.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, that is great. Okay. So you're living in California now.
Live in California now. Yeah, we lived in Alaska the first year after we were
Okay.
married. We were youth pastors in Alaska.
Okay.
And then after a year in Alaska, it was a tough one. I mean, you're so far from everybody.
Yeah.
And Alaska's beautiful. The people are
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. But during
Mm-hmm.
that year, my mom died, my grandpa died, an aunt died. I mean, it was just a lot. And
Yeah.
so at the end of the year, we accepted an invitation to become youth pastors in California. And
Okay.
as we drove we drove down the Alcan, from
Mm-hmm.
Alaska through down and through Northern California. And I'll never forget going, Chip, there's trees growing in the middle of the freeway. So like these big oleanders. And I thought, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
what in the world? We're like on an island, like a tropical island here. Well, I mean, I didn't know. That was my introduction to freeways. So now I know that's not a tropical island. It's just the median in the middle of the freeway. But yeah, we've been in California since, and
Okay.
raised our kids, had our kids, raised our kids here. Yeah, the
Okay.
weather's wonderful. Um, a lot of wonder, the mountains, the ocean, all of that. But I guess any place you are, it's your family that makes it. I do miss my sister. My dad still lived in
Yeah.
Texas. I miss him. He passed
Yeah.
a few years ago. But, once you have your kids, that's where you're surrounded by your kids. That's your home. So
Yeah.
now I have my grandkids. So,
Okay. Well, our kids are scattered. We've got one in Washington State, two in Richmond, one close to Memphis. By the way, I did visit Alaska one time, and I agree with you. It's an incredible
oh, it's
place and
beautiful.
good people. We enjoyed it. My daughter and her husband were stationed there at Anchorage for a year or so.
Oh, okay.
And all right. Well, that's interesting, how we go to different places and wind up in places. And
Yep.
yeah. All right. Well, uh, you experienced a tragedy, and I wanted to hear about that, share that, but also we're going to talk about how you've recovered from that and how now you have a ministry helping other people recover from that. So you lost your son Chandler to a very, very tragic accident that most of us just can't even imagine about. So please share us with us something about that and how it impacted you.
Yeah. Well, I will say, let me take you back a little bit to when I was
Okay.
18. I mentioned I lost my mom. That was my first taste of like a profound loss. I had never known any kind of loss like that until my mom died. She died of lung cancer. And like I said, I was 18, and I had always said anything ever happened to my mom, I wouldn't be able to live. She was like my closest, dearest, like I just adored her, and she died. And I did it the wrong way. Like I don't try to tell people, oh, there's a wrong way to grieve and a right way to grieve.
Yeah.
But if there's a wrong way, I did found
Yeah.
it. Um,
I've heard people talk about it's an individual process, and
it's
we
an
have to
individual
understand that.
process.
Hmm.
But I think there were some things that I just sort of was in denial. I thought if I just prayed hard enough, believed hard enough, she'd be okay. And she wasn't. And it was almost like magical thinking. And so after she died, my firm resolve was, well, that's just her body. Her spirit, her soul is in heaven with Jesus. Like, so it's just her body. Well, yeah, it was her body, but that was the body that rocked me and fed me and comforted me and drove me all over creation as a teenager and just gave me the best hugs that you could imagine. That was that body. But I minimized it. I put her makeup on her in her casket. I sang at her funeral. I mean, I didn't cry for weeks. So I say that to say I did do the grief process in a way that wasn't healthy for me. Um, and it came out sideways as the years went on, nothing catastrophic, but it just wasn't healthy for me. And, fast forward decades later, I have four kids, and my youngest son, Chandler, was 25, and he was on his way to work. He worked close by, so he was just riding his BMX bike, was the pride of his life. So yeah, Chandler was the kind of guy who would he did the backflips at the skate park, did all the things that give your parents a heart attack. But it was a joy of his life. He was a biker, a hiker, a golfer, a dancer. He loved all things that just would exude life.
Hmm.
And so he was on his way to work. He had asked me that day or the day before, hey, Mom, do we have any Santa hats? Because at his work, he was going to wear his Santa hat. It was December 15th, 2018. I told him where the Santa hat was. So he took off riding his bike with his Santa hat. I went about my business my last words to him. He was running down the stairs. I didn't know it was him. I didn't know which kid it was. So I just heard some feet on the stairs. And I said, oh, hey, whoever that is, are you going to go with us tonight to look at Christmas lights? And he said, Mom, I can't. I got to get to work. I love you. I said, I love you too, honey. And that was the
Mm.
last words that we said to one another.
Wow.
So I went about my business, went to do a little shopping, had my cart and was about to check out. And I get a call from a hospital. and it said, "Are you the mother of Chandler Espinoza?" I had gotten these calls before because of the nature of his life. Like
Mm,
he, had like did something to his back when he was in a body surfing. He got stitches for on a bike thing. I
mhm,
mean, it was always something with Chandler.
mhm,
So I
mhm,
thought, okay, here we go again. But they said, you need to get here as soon as you can.
mm.
And I said, is he okay? Well, he's been hit by a car. Just you need to get here. So long story short, it was the worst that you can imagine.
Yeah.
And um, after 18 days in the hospital, we lost him on January 1st, 2019.
Okay. Mm,
So that's you never think that will happen to you,
mm. Right.
even with the crazy stunts he would always do and just living his life large, he always bounced back. He got bit by a rattlesnake one
Mm,
time because he picked it up thinking it was a stick. At least that's what he says. Now my family says, Mom, do you really believe he thought it was a stick? But he picked up a rattlesnake and got bit. Thank goodness it was, he had went to the hospital. I get the call, hey, your son's at the hospital. It was just, another Chandlerism,
yeah.
and but this time it didn't turn out, well.
Okay. Wow. Again, yeah, you're right. You don't expect those kinds of things, and nothing nothing really prepares us
No.
in the moment for those things. I guess intellectually we might think about it, but in reality we don't.
Yeah.
Hey, I- thank you for sharing that. It's got to be a incredible, difficult thing. But I had a thought, and I'm not sure I'm going to express it right. So please forgive me. I tell people sometimes when they go through tragedies that they can turn it into a gift. And I don't mean to imply at all that anything about that was a gift, but what you have done is not let that overshadow your life to where that's it. You have now turned that around and are using it in a way. And I tell people, if you want to get past having your hope challenged, get out of yourself and do something for someone else. And so now, and I guess I'm leading up to the next chapter where you are using that tragedy to help other people facing I guess, any kind of tragedy. So that I appreciate you doing that because you're living the thing that you're teaching other people. You're demonstrating that. In a discussion we had before this, you made the comment about our theology makes a difference, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that you said that because it does. And where I eventually like to take people is that true and lasting hope is found in our Lord. But not everybody's ready for that in the moment, especially when they're facing a tragedy or a challenge of some kind. But eventually, we want people to get there. And I'm going to tell you something I discovered. You may be a person of faith. Uh, you're still going to face some challenges to that faith. I did. I went through a very aggressive and deadly strain of leukemia. My doctor said you've got less than a month to live.
Oh
And
my
then he told
goodness,
me,
it's
well, he told
terrifying.
me, yeah, he said, we know how to treat this. And so he put me in the hospital. But the first couple of days I was in the hospital, they were hitting me with everything in the world. I really had no idea I would make it through the night. I had gone so low. Platelets were destroyed. Immunity system was destroyed, the whole bit. And it bothered me that I was experiencing fear. And my nurse, I thought I was having a heart attack. I think it was the second night. And I hit the button. My heart rate was way off. And I'm sorry, I'm talking too much. But anyway, she chased everybody off out of the room that was checking on me. But anyway, and we sat and talked for a while. And she said, I asked her, I said, why am I experiencing fear? I'm a man of faith. And she said, well, welcome to the human race. And
Yeah.
we had a
Yeah.
long conversation. And I'm sorry, I want to hear about you, but I would tell people that when you're grieving the loss of someone, especially that you love so dearly, welcome to the human race. Of course you're going to grieve.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I'm going
Yes.
to
And
throw it back over
that
to you.
takes me back to, when I lost my mom, I
Uh-huh.
thought it was a sign of my faith to say, well, she's with the Lord now. And no, it really wasn't. Faith is when you look at something for what it really is,
Okay.
and you choose to say, be that as it may, it is well with my soul,
Hmm.
and I will keep moving forward by the grace of God.
Yeah.
That's faith. It's not, oh well no, it was just her body. It's just not, she's in a better place. And so what I appreciate what you said about using what happened as a way to help others. That actually came by, I say accident, but we know it wasn't an accident. A
Yeah.
friend of mine
It
said,
wasn't something you had set out. This is what I'm going to
oh,
do. It
no, I
happened.
wouldn't check that box. I wouldn't
Yeah.
check. I would check the box to help people. I would not check the box to lose my son. I would
Sure.
trade it all for not losing my son. However, what I call it is a point of redemptive light. If I could go back and change losing Chandler, I 100% would. But it happened. And having lost Chandler, the path that I moved forward in, I discovered was helping other people. And when I helped other people, somehow it shined a point of redemptive light into what could have just been stark darkness. And it was sort of an accident. And again, I use that term. I don't really, it wasn't an accident, but my friend said to me while Chandler was in the hospital, I think you need to start a caring bridge, which is a place where people can stay updated on how, people are doing that are in the hospital or going through, health crises. So I think you need to do a caring bridge blog because so many people want to know how Chandler's doing. And you're a writer and it will help you process and it'll help other people. And I was like, I couldn't even think straight.
Yeah.
And so I thought about it for a day or two and I said, okay, I'll do it. Well, I started writing and it wasn't just today, his blah, blah, blah. I was processing this as I was updating people. And I started to hear from people that my words were helping them.
Wow.
And so I kept writing every day. So as I was writing, um, I, I realized that, um, as I look back on it, there was this hope, like he may be okay. He's going to be paralyzed. We know that he was paralyzed, um, but he'll be the guy that does Special Olympics and does a flip in his wheelchair off of something. Like
Mm.
that's what this is going to be. We'll retrofit our house. We're going to be okay. And this is all in my book because it's a day-to-day account of how things went. And then it didn't go that way. And we lost him on January 1st, 2019.
Mm.
But I knew he wanted to be a writer. And I knew that somehow my words were helping people. And I knew that it was helping me to process.
Hmm.
So I said, I made a commitment. I'm going to write every single day for this entire first year after losing Chandler. I'm going to process it all. And so I kept writing. I started, my website. And I just wrote every single day when I had no energy left, when I didn't even know what to say, I couldn't find words, when the day was wonderful, every single day. And I always joke, I don't do anything every single day except go to the bathroom and brush my teeth. But I did it. And I did it because I did it for Chandler.
Hmm.
It was like, son, I'm so tired tonight, but I'm doing this for you. I'm going to do this for you. And at the end of the year, I had people say you need to publish it. And so I did. I published it as a book called First Brush Your Teeth,
Hmm.
Grief and Hope in Real Time. And now to get back to what you said about theology. And I also wrote about this in the book. And I want to tell you, the book is not a how-to or a retrospective. When you
Okay.
read it, if you look at a certain day, if you look at May, that date in May is how I was doing that day in May. It's not how I remembered. That was it. So as a person who may be grieving, I've had moms tell me grieving moms who've read it and said, I looked halfway through the book and I saw that you went to goat yoga and laughed. And I thought, okay, maybe I can have joy. Maybe I can. And I saw that you made it through Thanksgiving. And
Mm.
so maybe I can make it through Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So back to the piece about theology. One of the things that I wrote, because this was right at Christmas, and I realized as we neared, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, the only theology that mattered to me, and I'm probably going to get emotional about this,
Oh, I understand.
the only theology that mattered to me in those moments was Emmanuel, God
Okay.
is with me.
Yeah.
That is what mattered. That is what got me through the days and the nights and the weeks and the months and now the
Mm-hmm.
years. The reality that God is with me.
I've had people make a statement, and I guess I've made the statement before. How in the world do people survive without a relationship with our Lord? And I know that they do. And it makes me even more challenged to continue to help them develop that relationship because, again, theology matters. It truly, truly does. And I had a preacher friend of mine years and years ago said it's a shame sometimes we have to be flat on our back to look up to God. And if we have that relationship beforehand, when those tragedies happen, then we're still going to hurt. Oh yeah, and we're still going to question, but theology matters. It truly does. And the more,
Yeah. And there was never a doubt. I don't think that I mean, I could be wrong. My memory could be failing me. I am past a certain age, as we say, but I don't remember saying, why Chandler? Why Chandler? I think it was just more how do we do this? How do
yeah,
I, and that's how the title of my book came to be, First Brush Your Teeth, because I get out of bed, brush my teeth, then maybe I'll have the energy to get to the closet and get dressed.
yeah,
Then maybe I'll go downstairs and get something to eat. And then maybe I'll call a friend or maybe I'll go for a walk. But first I just gotta, if I could just brush my teeth.
yeah,
First step. You got to take a first step because it becomes that granular. It becomes that minute of a step in the day when you're deeply grieving and you can hardly get your breath. It becomes as small as put your foot on the floor, put the other foot on the floor, walk to the sink, get your
yeah.
toothbrush, brush your teeth.
Something I realized too, in your conversation and what I've heard of before is you do not have to recover all at one time. It is a
No,
process,
you
and you
can't.
may never be at the end of that recovery.
Yes.
Of course not. But so don't person shouldn't feel like uh, it's been 6 months. Why am I still grieving?
Oh,
Of course you are.
yes.
Yeah,
There are so
forever.
many factors involved there. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
things such as complicated grief, uncomplicated grief,
Mm-hmm.
confounding factors. Maybe if there was a great relationship with the person you lost or a not great relationship with the person you lost, all of those factors come into play with the grief process. But I said in the beginning, I can't absorb all of this. I can't absorb the reality that I will not see Chandler again. And even weeks and months later, I would hear the door open and there was some cell in my body that thought, oh, Chandler, and it's not, it
Yeah,
can't be. But
yeah,
I don't even know if in this lifetime that every cell and pore of my being will have absorbed the reality that Chandler Espinoza is not alive on this earth with me anymore.
yeah,
I don't know that you can absorb it all. You live with it. It's a reality,
yeah,
but it's just too much. It's just too much. And for me, and pain is pain, loss is loss. I'm not comparing at all because like losing my mom, I thought I didn't know how I could go on losing my mom.
Hmm.
And then losing my son, it's a different shape of loss. Loss comes
Hmm.
in all different kinds of shapes. I've lost or we lost a dog a few years ago. And oh my goodness, it's a different shape of loss in that that dog was with us when we lost Chandler. That
Mm.
dog carried the tears of my daughter when she cried in her bed after losing her brother.
Yeah.
Um, it's almost like it's a different shape of loss because they're with you
Hmm.
24/7. So I don't want to compare types of loss. Loss is loss, pain is pain. There's a grief process to go through. Well, it's been a month or 2 months or 3 months or it's been a year. I should be, that you just have to give yourself grace upon grace.
That's right. Oh, yeah. I have a friend that does grief counseling, and he talks about that, that you can't put a time on it.
Yeah,
You just can't do it. And not only is every person processing that loss differently, you said it, the way you felt when your mom passed and now your son passed and then the dog, um, and all of those impacted you differently.
hmm,
But they all impacted you.
yeah,
Now you're helping others, and I so appreciate that. Honestly, I do. I just so appreciate that. Uh, Something I've noticed, I volunteer at our local cancer center. Folks that have gone through something, a challenge to their hope, when they have worked through that, it's almost like you can't help but turn around and help others, either in
yeah,
a similar situation or something that you might have knowledge or gifted with or something. And so you're doing that, and it just helps. It truly does. And I tell folks, hey, not that you've been given a gift, and I hate to say it that way, but that you've been giving something that you can use to help other people. And
right.
it's
And the
such a
gift,
strong thing
like
to
you were
do.
saying, the gift is not that you lost someone. The gift is somehow having the grace to let that pain transform into something that helps others.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and I mean, we, talk about wounded healers, and when you've gone through some stuff that's really wounded your soul,
Hmm.
um, you there's a whole new empathy, a whole new way of connecting with people who are going through that.
People you would never have met before, perhaps, or anything. I appreciate you so much, and I'm looking forward to sharing this with other folks, because if they have not experienced a tragedy, they will experience a tragedy of some level. I'm not saying the world's going to come crashing down on them, but something's going to happen to them, and they're going to need to process that. And and hope is such an incredible part of that. By the way, I didn't necessarily preload this in the questions, but can you explain a little bit about your thought on hope, what hope is?
Well, there are a couple of levels to that for me.
Okay.
My first hope is for me the reality that I will see Chandler again.
Okay.
Without that, I might have gone stark raving crazy.
Sure.
I I will see Chandler again. And
See, there's a difference I'm hearing in your voice, a confident expectation.
mhm, absolutely. I
Yeah.
will see Chandler again.
Okay.
So there's that hope. And and it's even more than hope, the reality that again, God is with me.
Mhm.
So whatever I hope for, the highest thing I could hope for will not be disappointed. The highest hope that I could have would be wellness for my soul. And that's not an empty hope. It's a reality. Um, and, and hope that my, my pain can be turned into something redemptive for other people. And again, that hope is not disappointed, because I know that God is using what has happened to be able to come alongside and help other people, to be a
Hmm.
companion with others in their grief.
Yeah.
And it's not just, my message is not just you can white knuckle it. And I know at first it feels like that. I'm not minimizing that at all. There are days, there may be weeks, there may be months where you just feel like the best I can do is brush my teeth and just put a foot in front of the other. That's about as
Hmm.
much as I can manage. I'm not minimizing that, but I know that there can be joy. I know that there can be joy even after the deepest loss, because joy is not rah rah, I'm happy.
Hmm.
There's a depth to joy. And when I hold my grandbaby, that's joy. That's joy. It's from the depth of my being. Um, when I was with my kids, my first Mother's Day after losing Chandler, there was joy in the reality that I have these kids around me. And yes, we all wish Chandler were here and we hate it, but there's joy. And so I just want to encourage, if anybody's listening and you just recently lost someone, I don't want you to feel pressure to, well, I'm supposed to feel joy. You
Right.
feel what you need to feel. You
Right.
feel what you need to
Hmm.
feel when you need to feel it. But I just want you to be open to the possibility that you can experience joy even after a deep, profound loss.
Some of the people that would be listening to this that have been repeat listeners, they're going to know I've said it before. One of my favorite um, events that happened in Scripture was when Moses was commissioned by God to go back to Egypt, and he argued with him. He didn't want to do it, and finally God said, "What's in your hands?" And so that's why I talk about, yeah, it's not a gift I've been given, but I've been given some tools that I can
Mhm.
use uh, to glorify God, of course, but also to help me and to help others continue to grow and sustain that hope and rediscover that hope.
What's in your
So,
hands?
yeah.
That's good. And what's in your hands? I didn't pick it up. I wouldn't have picked it up. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
chosen it.
Oh,
But
no.
what's in my hands? And how can I give that up and say, God, you redeem it. You
Yeah.
redeem it. I don't choose it. I don't like it,
Yeah.
but it happened and I'm going to give it to you to redeem.
Yeah. I could go on for a long time with this. I am enjoying talking to you. Uh,
Well, thank you. It's a privilege to be able to share
yeah.
about Chandler. You know, one of
Mm.
the things that any parent who's lost a child will say, I don't care if you forget about me, but I sure don't want you to ever forget about my son or my
Yeah.
daughter. You
Yeah.
just don't want people to forget. And so one of the things early on that I wrote in one of my daily blog posts that people read was, what would honor Chandler? Like, because when you just you don't have the energy to really do much of anything. Well, what would honor Chandler? Okay, we'd honor Chandler if I keep doing push-ups because he was proud that his mom could do push-ups.
Hmm.
It, it would honor Chandler if I got out of the house and got together with friends because he loved being with his friends. That would honor him.
Yeah.
It wouldn't honor him if I hunker down and I don't move on with my life. I don't realize that I have purpose too. So what would honor Chandler? And a friend of mine actually made me a ring that said WWHC, what would honor Chandler? And
Okay.
so, I would wear that ring.
Okay.
And and I think when you're in the depths of grief and you just can't find it in you to move forward. Of course, we have hope in the Lord. I mean,
Sure.
there's this tangible thing about this person that I've lost. What would honor them? What would honor John? What would honor Mary? What would honor what would they want me to do? Let's just put the rubber to the road and say, what would honor them? Would it honor them for me to put a pause or a stop on my life?
Mm.
It wouldn't. It wouldn't.
Mm-mm.
So, I encourage people to say, that's another, sort of tangible thing that you can move forward with. What would honor the loved one that I've lost?
Yeah. I lost a brother-in-law a number of years ago. My wife's youngest sister, he was killed in an auto accident. And I remember after the funeral, and Bill was a wonderful guy. Everybody loved him. And um, my nephew and I were talking, and I said, you know what we need to do, what Bill would love for us to do? Let's go hunting because Bill
There
loved
you
to
go.
hunt. Let's go shoot some squirrels. Now, there may be
What?
some.
What? My daddy was a huge squirrel hunter.
Okay.
Like I remember being like knee high and him taking me
Uh-huh.
to the woods and he'd say, "There's a squirrel, baby." And like we'd come home and we would skin them and I would help. And we would like my mom would make them with gravy, squirrel gravy and biscuits,
Uh-huh.
or squirrel and dumplings, or fried squirrel.
Now, there's
And
going to be some
I
people
did,
listening to this that are going to say, oh, no,
they're
no,
not
no,
going to
what are
believe
you
it.
doing? Oh, no. What?
But that's what I grew up with. And I actually took the tail of a squirrel on show and tell day one day
Oh, no.
and I just thought that was a
Yeah.
normal thing to do.
One, uh, one day we were visiting them and Bill and I were out in the front yard and Bill said, you like to shoot skeet? And I said, yeah, I've shot skeet before. I like it. So he goes and we have two shotguns and we're shooting bats as they would
Oh,
fly through. We're shooting.
shoot.
Anyway, okay. But again, you think about those things and you laugh and you enjoy the memory of it and it
Yeah.
helps you work through. All
Yep.
right. Yeah, Bill was a character and we love him dearly. And
Yep. And mine was a bill too. My
okay.
squirrel hunter was a bill.
Okay. All right. Well, let me wrap up. Thank you so much.
Thank
I'm
you,
going to
Dave.
put the information about your blog and your book on the show notes so folks can go to that and get a hold of you. I appreciate that you have that. Um, I think you not only have a story to tell, but you have uh, what it takes to help folks. And so if somebody's listening to this and needs to help work through that, I think you'd be a great person to talk to them. So I do so much appreciate it.
I
Okay.
appreciate the opportunity. Like I said, it's a
Yeah.
privilege to share my story.
Yeah. And one of the things I like to do, I like to stay in contact with my guests and just to check in, see how things are going.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
okay. Well, friends, thank you for joining Lisa and I as together we journey to hope. I trust in some small way we've encouraged you to discover, sustain, or regain hope through this effort. I invite you to contact me if you have any questions or comments or you wish to share with me something you've experienced in your journey to hope. My email is info@ourjourneytohope.com. That's info@ourjourneytohope.com. And please share this podcast with someone whose hope is being challenged. I look forward to sharing more with you soon. Again, I'm Dr. Dave Layton, and thank you for listening. And until our next episode, remember, we give all glory to God our Father.